opening Mass, and what a fitting way to begin the journey of the year ahead. I now welcome Mrs. Morton to the stage for the Principal's welcome and address for this new year.
Thank you, Ms. Gilroy, and we probably should have had a more formal introduction of her as our acting assistant principal for this year. We're very excited to be working with her in this role, and no doubt you'll be seeing a lot more of her as the year goes on. We gather here today at the beginning of the school year, and I want to take this opportunity to reflect on our values that make our school such a special place to be. I also want to challenge you to get you thinking about the possibilities of what this year can bring for you, for your teachers, for your family, but most importantly for our school community. At the heart of our journey this year lies two guiding principles: striving for excellence and being courageous. Excellence is not just a goal that we set, it's a mindset that we cultivate every day. It's about pushing boundaries. It's about challenging ourselves. It's about refusing to settle for anything less than our best. And can I just say, following that Mass, we're going to be working on our Mass participation as part of that striving for our best. We acknowledge that whether it's in the classroom, the sporting arena, the cultural spaces that we have in our community, or any other endeavour we engage in, we commit to pursuing excellence relentlessly. At Xavier, we strive to not only meet but exceed our own expectations, pushing the limits of what we originally thought may have been possible. If we can dream it, we can do it. Excellence doesn't come without challenge, and challenge requires courage. The courage to step out of our comfort zones, the courage to embrace failure as a stepping stone to our success, the courage to stand up for what we believe in, even when that's not the easiest path. Our faith imbues us with the courage we need, and Joshua tells us, be strong and courageous. Don't be afraid. Don't be discouraged. For the Lord your God will be with you wherever you go. Courage actually isn't the absence of fear. It's the ability to act in spite of it. E.E. Cummings actually tells us about it takes courage to grow up and become who you really are. And my challenge to each and every one of you sitting here today, in your pursuit of growing up, because that's what we do at schools, is be courageous in that pursuit. I'm going to share with you a story today, and I apologise, it's on my phone. A story about great courage, a story about faith, and a story about kindness. And I hope that this sets the tone for the year that we're about to have. Every Friday evening, almost without fail, when the sun resembled a giant orange and was starting to dip into the blue ocean, old Ed came strolling along the beach to his favourite pier. Clutched in his bony hand was a bucket of prawns. Ed walked out to the end of the pier where it seems he almost had the world to himself. The glow of the sun, a golden bronze now. Everyone's gone, except for a few joggers on the beach. And standing out on the end of the pier is Ed, all alone with his thoughts and his bucket of prawns. Before long, however, he's no longer alone. Up in the sky, 1,000 white dots come screeching and squawking, winging their way towards the lanky frame standing there at the end of the pier. Before long, dozens of seagulls have enveloped him, their wings fluttering and flapping wildly, and Ed stands there tossing prawns to the hungry birds. As he does, if you listen closely, you can hear him say with a smile, "Thank you, thank you." In a few short minutes, the bucket's empty, but Ed doesn't leave. He stands there lost in thought, as though transported to another time and place. And when he finally turns around and begins to walk back towards the beach, a few of the birds hop along the pier with him until he gets to the stairs, and then they too fly away. Old Ed quietly makes his way down to the end of the beach and on the way to home. If you were sitting there on the pier with your fishing line in the water, Ed might seem a bit odd to you. To old onlookers, he's just another old codger, lost in his own weird world, feeding the seagulls with a bucket of prawns. To many onlookers, rituals can look either very strange or very empty, and they can also seem altogether unimportant. Maybe even a bit of nonsense. We all know old folks often do strange things, at least in the eyes of the millennials, the Gen Zs and the Gen Ys. Most of them would probably write old Ed off down there in Florida. And that's too bad, because they needed to take the time to get to know him better. His full name is actually Eddie Rickenbacker. He was a famous hero in World War I and then in World War II. On one of his flying missions across the Pacific, he and 7 crew members went down. Miraculously, they all survived, but they landed in the rough waters of the Pacific. They fought the sun. They fought sharks. Most of all, they fought hunger and thirst. By the 8th day, their rations had actually run out. No food and no water. They were hundreds of miles from land, and no one actually knew where they were or if they were still alive. Every day across America, millions wondered and prayed that Eddie Rickenbacker might somehow be found alive. The men adrift needed a miracle, and that afternoon they had a simple devotional service and prayed. They tried to nap. Eddie leaned back and put his military cap over his nose, and time dragged on. All he could hear was the slap of the waves against the raft, and suddenly Eddie felt something land on the top of his cap. It was a seagull. Old Ed would later describe to those how he sat perfectly still, planning his next move. With a flash of his hand and a squawk from the gull, he managed to grab it and wring its neck. He tore the feathers off, and he and his starving crew made a meal of it, a very slight meal for 8 men. They then used the intestines for bait, and with it they caught fish, which gave them food and more bait, and the cycle continued. With that simple survival technique, they were able to endure the rigours of sea until they were found and rescued 24 days after their initial crash. Eddie Rickenbacker lived many years beyond his ordeal, but he never forgot the sacrifice of that life-saving seagull. And he never stopped saying thank you. That's why every Friday night he would walk to the end of a pier with a bucket full of prawns and a heart full of gratitude. So the message to us is this. One, I hope we're never in a situation where we have to catch a bird and eat it raw, alive, sitting in the sea waiting for tiger sharks to eat us. But I do hope that we can take a message from Eddie and recognise that there are times where we need to step out of our comfort zone, consider some different alternatives, and be courageous enough to take that chance to help not only ourselves, but those people around us. As E. Cummings said, it takes courage to grow up and become who you really are. So, we embark on this new school year together. Remember the power of striving for excellence and the importance of being courageous. Our role here is to support and uplift one another in our pursuit of greatness. Let's dare to dream. Let's dare to dream big. And let's work tirelessly to make those dreams our reality. 2024 for us here at Xavier is going to be a year of growth, achievement, and unforgettable moments. Thank you.